call the meeting to order. Thank you folks for coming here on this rainy night. Certainly a pretty soft rainy night to have. I would ask if you would please bow your heads in invocation, Commissioner's invocation. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of living in Harris County. We thank you for the privilege of being able to speak our minds. We thank you for the honor of representing the people and the citizens of Harris County. And we ask that you guide us, and direct us, and help us as we seek to make the right decisions. Oh Lord, we ask that you be with the citizens of this county, that you be with the leaders of this state, and the leaders of our nation as we go through trying times. We ask for your protection over our military, and we ask for your protection of the citizens of Harris County. Thank you, O Lord, for all the blessings that you have given us and that we hope to continue to have. We ask these things in Christ's name. I'd now like to call on JP's partner with Grimes, our external auditors, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Minutes of the last meeting, both the regular session and the work session have been presented for review. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a recommendation that it be approved.
Second motion.
A motion for approval, and we have a second. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by raising hands. Motion carries. Appearance of citizens, Nancy? All right. The old business. The new business, first item is the financial statement for April of this year, which has been provided to us for review. And then there was we went out to everyone, the commissioners today on the airport piece of that. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that it be approved.
A second.
Motion for approval and a second. Discussion. And just a comment that I would like to make, kind of reinforce this more than anything else. Years ago, we used to, in our monthly financial statements, get a report for each one of the funds that existed in the county, in enterprise funds. That ceased. Last year, we reinstituted that for a little while, but it has ceased again for the last few months. And part of that is, frankly, just changing personnel moving through. So we have discussed this, and going forth from this point, all of the funds will begin appearing in our monthly package. It's something that we have been ought to be aware of and take a look at every month, particularly those major funds. So everything's still in order with those, but we will have those included in our monthly statement. And glad to be doing that. I think it just gives us something so that we know we've got our finger on the pulse. All in favor of that motion then, please signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is the second reading for application of beer and wine off premises at the Citgo Food Mart, 9089 Georgia Highway 18, Pine Mountain, Georgia. It's for beer and wine off premises. The sheriff's office sees no reason why it should not be granted. The health department has, there's nothing in that that's applicable to them. And the community development department has indicated their approval. I do not.
That one goes to.
Oh, there she is, yeah, Ms. Children? Do you wish to make any comments? She is the applicant. No comments at this point in time? All right, this is the second reading. Are there any citizens here that wish to speak in favor of this applicant? Any citizens in favor? All right, are there any citizens here who wish to speak in opposition? Any in opposition? All right, hearing none, then that concludes the public hearing. Unless any of the commissioners have any questions, they would ask the applicant.
Yes, I do. Did you get approval, have you gotten approval to serve food yet? It says on here, may not serve food at this time. Have you gotten approval to serve food yet? Okay, and it needs it says that you need a copy of, and I can't read what it is, approval from the Department of Agriculture. Have you gotten that?
No, it will be done on Thursday.
Okay. That was just a general reminder.
Thank you.
All right. Counselor, since we don't have that copy,
We don't issue the license until they provide.
until, that's what I was gonna say, we could take a vote and approve it pending that.
Right.
Okay, that's, all right. Then if there are no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion.
It's in my district, and people are asked me continuously when they're going to open it. So I would be very happy to make a motion to approve.
All right, pending that approval. Yes, pending that receipt, okay. And we have a second. Any discussion? All right, and all in favor of that motion, please signify by raising your hands. Opposed? All right, the motion passes. Good luck to you, we hope you do well. Thank you, ma'am. All right, the next is the audit for last year, ending June the 30th, 2016. We have two partners from Robinson Grounds here to present the audit to us, as well as a representative from Seven Trent, who's been working on this audit also. Unless we scared him off, he'll be our Chief Financial Officer in a short while. We have JP's, we have Stephen Warnick, and then, are you speaking first?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Clint will come up and talk to us, and then we'll hear from the outside auditor.
So each of you have a hard copy.
Yeah.
So I'll try to make this quick, give a brief review of these, all the 137 pages. I know each of you are chomping at the bit to read through each page, but let's hit the highlights so you guys.
They sent it to us yesterday, so it is
That's
ready.
already done.
It is written, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, again, this is the fiscal year 2016 audited financial statements for Harris County, Georgia. A lot of what I'm going to go through, all of you guys have already seen going through the 2018 budget process. So you've seen kind of some of what's about to be revealed in this, some of the directions that this audit reveals that we're heading to. Remember, this is 2016 numbers. We're working on the 2018 budget, so this is a little bit behind the times, but this is kind of showing how we progressed to where the 2018 budget stands at this point. But if you would, a couple of points of emphasis, high points, and if you turn to page 11 under the MD&A, the management discussion and analysis, at the bottom of the page, the general fund is bolded. In that section, On page 11, it talks about the total revenues for the general fund decreased by $228,973, and those are related to property and motor vehicle taxes and local option sales tax being down or flat, which we talked about. That trend is in place now. It doesn't appear that it's going to be moving anywhere anytime soon. And so we're pointing that out, that the fund balance. So if we go to my next point on here, page 12, about the middle of the page where it says in fiscal year 2016, the general fund's unassigned fund balance decreased almost $1.9 million. That unassigned fund balance is now at $9.6 million, which is still considered adequate. That's 55% of annual expenditures, of general fund's annual expenditures. That's down from about 65% last year. Now to put that in perspective, that's half a year's worth of annual expenditures, and again, that's considered adequate. But the trend has been set that number's only going down. What's the good number to have on that? It varies. You never want any less than my estimation of 25% of 3 months worth of working capital on that number. And we're at 55 now, so we're still in good shape. But again, we've seen a trend of this number going down. 2017, it's not going to be 9.6 again. It's probably going to be less. I can't give you the exact number it'll be, but it's going to be less. That trend is in place. We've seen where the operating expenditures have kind of turned to for 17 and 18 budgets. So just a little prep for that of what we've seen in 18. Also on page 12, another point of emphasis that I'd like to make that again points to more hit to the general fund is under the Public Improvements Authority on here. We have $680,000 of community center bond debt that for each year from the beginning of that debt when it was issued, 09 SPLOST helped to cover a portion of that. Last year was about $287,000. Moving forward after this year, starting in fiscal year 2017, all the way through 2031, that's going to be a $650,000 some odd estimated hit to the general fund budget. Like I said, through that bond is set to be paid off in 2031, so principal and interest up until that time is going to be about $600,000. The general fund will be hit, and that's important to know moving forward. The bottom of page 13, if you will, and this is somewhat addressed in Mr. Dowling's capital improvement plan that I know you're working on, but in the analysis of the capital assets, 58% of the governmental activities assets were depreciated versus 55% in 2015. Now what that number indicates is that the county is replacing its assets at a slower rate, and therefore the assets are aging. So you've got an older fleet of assets. Where has that popped up? We've kind of seen it in animal control. We're possibly, when we talk about 2018 budget, the EMS, the ambulances, the fleet, the garbage trucks, the things that we're looking at, we're talking about that need replacing. Those are the types of things that start popping up. Again, this can be addressed through the capital improvement plan, but we've got to get the ship right to make sure we can address those things into the capital improvement plan. And then the final couple of items on here, flip back to page 11, or still under the NDA. I just wanted to point out the operating analysis for the enterprise funds for 16. We had Waterworks that had a profit of $1 million. Solid waste was roughly $400,000, and the airport had a loss of $133,000 on here. As I've discussed with some of those numbers include depreciation and some non-cash items in there, but for financial purposes, that comes up to a loss for us on that airport side. And, speaking of the airport for this year, we had spent about $3.5 million of construction between the taxiway and hangar construction projects that we had at the airport. Now, a large portion of that is covered by FAA grant We have an outstanding receivable reimbursement that'll cover some of that going into 17, but we show a large deficit in 2016 on the airport side. Now, some of that's going to be recouped through the FAA funds that we'll receive, but at the end of the day, it's still going to show a deficit on the airport side moving forward because the operating income right now is not there. Will it be in the future? It's anybody's guess right now, but just wanted to point that out to you guys.
And just to clarify that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is with revenues from that or hangar rentals,
Hangar rentals.
Profit on sale of gasoline.
That's correct.
Expenses are normal operating expenses and salaries and whatnot.
Your materials.
The, what is not included in the income there, because it's in a different bucket, is the ad valorem taxes for the planes that are housed there.
That's correct. That is not included
So, I mean,
in
that's-
that number.
And it's not a huge number, but it does help offset a little bit, but it does belong in a different box. Now that we have our first jet out there, those are a bit more expensive animals and bring in a little bit more tax dollars.
You would be correct in making that statement, all right?
Thank you.
All right, so let's move back into page 54 of the statements, and this is just kind of pointing out. This is the long-term debt schedule, so this shows the different bonds that have been put out, the governmental activities, the community center bonds, a GEPA loan that was put out in 2009, the 2015 revenue bonds for the Grove sewer project that was out there, some capital leases for some Caterpillar equipment that were done, your compensated absences, so vacation payouts, that type of thing, and then the all-important, your net pension liability, that big number that per Gatsby was placed out there just a couple of years ago for financial statement reporting purposes. Again, your business type activities, so your water, your sewer, your airport. Now these are mostly related to your water works, your GEPA loan here, and then the 2012 revenue bonds that are out here. Solid waste has those Caterpillar capital leases, the landfill post-closure, and again, the compensated absence in that position. But so this gives you a breakdown of what that total outstanding debt is as of 2016. As you see, $17.5 million for the governmental activities at 26/30/16, and almost $8 million on the enterprise fund, the business type activities. So that's an important piece that we want to look at. And the final thing that I'll talk about is page 66, which is the comparative balance sheet from 2015 to 2016 for the general fund. And again, the important piece to look at here, we're going to look down here at fund balances. So you've got fund balance, but some of that fund balance is restricted. It's either in non-spendable form, it's restricted per state regulations or some other type of covenant. We've got some that are committed for recreation facilities. I believe that's Ellis Park in that case. And then you have your unassigned fund balance. Again, we looked earlier that the 2015 number, which was about 11.5, is now sitting at $9.6 million of unassigned, the all-important number that working capital that we have to work with in that case. And then the final piece is page 68 through 76, just gives us all of the breakdown of all the different revenues, our actual revenues versus our original budget versus our amended budget. It also compares it with 2015. So this goes for all your different tax revenues, your property taxes, your franchise, your local option sales tax, your insurance premium tax, that type of thing are included in here. And then it goes by functional department. Your expenditures that are against all those, that being general government, your judicial side, your public safety, your public service functions, all those different types of functions that are out there. So you look over that, that's a good detail, good starting point of what we're looking at budget-wise, moving forward, we're looking at 2018 budgets. Now remember, we've still got 2017 numbers that are unaudited that will be coming to you also. This is 2016, but that kind of covers what I wanted to go over with you guys tonight. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain those.
Going back to page 54 on the debt,
Yes, ma'am.
in your experience, would you say that this amount of debt is low, high, or pretty typical for a county the size of Harris with the budget that we have, and the funds that we have?
I would say that this number, comparatively speaking, I only have a limited amount that I've worked on, but this is a little bit low from things that I've seen in the past. It's not overly burdensome to the county when you look at the amount of assets and where the net position is, where the fund balance is. Now, the lower that fund balance number goes, the more this number of outstanding debt kind of becomes a concern. But I think right now it's not overly burdensome to the county.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you,
Just
sir.
my final thing, I'd like to thank the board and the county manager for your thoughtfulness and making a decision. This was a short time frame that we had to do this in, but thank Robinson and Grimes for their help through this process. And I especially have to thank Severin Trent, my team, Cassandra Hernandez and Dylan Lindhorst. I couldn't have done this without them. Severin Trent and their administration for providing that team. And hopefully moving forward. And I guess I need to point this out. You know, Mr. Paul Glick kind of did the setup for the financial statements last year, and it was a good setup and keeping that. And I didn't have to reinvent the wheel to do that. So having him in that place also helped out. So I'd like to point out that fact also. But thank you for everything that you provided for us.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate it, appreciate you and your team meeting the deadlines that we had to meet.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very, very much.
All right.
All right, Jay, Stephen?
We'll try and be even more brief. Again, thank y'all for allowing us to be here. But as y'all remember Stephen, he's done 99% of this work, and I'm going to take 1% of the time to go through a little bit of these reports and so forth. But I too want to kind of thank Clint, Randy, all their staff, the Severin Trent team, because if y'all remember, we sat here and delivered the 2015 audit on March the 7th. Clint got 2016 closed. We began the field work on April 16th, so about a month later, he got 16 done. We got finished a couple of weeks ago, so that was about a 1 month time frame. And Clint finished up the financials last week. I think got electronic copies out to everybody. We got our 10 pages worth of reports put together. So that was a true fast track process from the time we sat here on March the 7th to the time June the 20th. So it was a lot of work, and a lot of quick work, a lot of good work, and we appreciate all the help that we had to get it done. So I'll go through these reports, but I do want to remind you that, again, this is 2016. So we're reporting on what was going on during the 2016 year, not what's going on in the 2016 or the 2018 fiscal year. So our reports start on page, the ones that I'm going to talk about start on page 128. The main opinion letter that we have on the financial statements that basically say all these financial statements Clinton went over are fair and present fairly where you stand is in the earlier part of it. The reports that start on page 128, you've got a little extra literature here this year than you had before. On page 128 and 129 is the basic opinion on internal control and compliance in accordance with government auditing standards. And that's the same report you've gotten before. You'll notice at the bottom of 128, it talks about some deficiencies, 2016-1 and 2016-2 in internal control. And in the middle of page 129, it talks about a couple of other findings on compliance matters, 2016-3 and -4. Those are listed in the back, and we'll talk about them briefly. But a lot of that is repeat from what we talked about a year ago, again, because we're talking about 2016. Then flip the page to 130 and 131, and this is a new report that you see, and it is, you see at the top of it, the title of it is Report on Compliance with Each Major Federal Program, and report on internal control of compliance in accordance with the uniform guidance. And that is when you have what we call a single audit, and you get so much federal money. You've not had this before. You get all this airport money now from the FAA. This is new, so consequently that money has to be audited separate and stand alone. We have to give you a separate report on it. So that's what this is. And you'll see at the bottom of 130, it says, in our opinion, the county complies in all material respects with the compliance requirements of the federal requirements. Same thing at the bottom of 131. The next to last paragraph at the end of that says, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control over this federal money. So your federal money is all fine. The controls that you've got external folks helping you with that, monitor that, so all that all looks fine. Flip the page 132. This is, again, the new schedule related to that, the federal schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So this shows the $2 million that you got in FAA money in 2016. So that's what we were opining on just a second ago. 133 is also a new report. You have to do one of these when you have a single audit. And this just basically covers all the reports that we did and what that I've really just talked about. So we'll skip that and go over to 134. On 134, you see these findings that we mentioned a minute ago in there, two related to internal control on the left and two related to compliance on the right. 2016-1, which talks about signature authority. If you recall, we had this matter a year ago. That was still in place during the 16 year, but that went away. That got corrected at the end of 16, so that's all. That will go away as a finding in 2017. 2016-2 is segregation of duties. This may, as we've talked about before, when you talk about a lot of the elected officials' offices and the finance department, there's just a lot of different offices that are dependent on one or two people. And so this finding probably won't go completely away. It'll probably be modified a little bit in 17, mainly because of the team that Clint referred to that was in place. When you had brought in 2 or 3 extra people this year, the controls were better. So, but that was, again, 17, that wasn't 16. So we'll kind of deal with that next time we give you a report on that and see how much of that has been maintained and how that all worked together. But that was what was going on in 16. The top of page 135, the compliance items, you know, we told you about the late filing of the audited financial statements. We went past the 60 days, so that's a report here. But again, hopefully that'll be the last time you'll see that. And then at the bottom of 135, sinking fund compliance. That's a new one because you had the one of the sinking funds that had some of these pledged revenues, and the payments were supposed to be going in on a more regular basis than they did. No payments were missed or anything, and you had the money in there, but it was just a matter of the timing of those payments. So I think that'll be corrected eventually. Whether it happens completely in 17 or not, I don't know, but it'll certainly be straightened out by 18. So progress is being made. 136 and 137 are the status of the prior year findings, and this really we just talked about at the top of 136. The internal control over financial reporting, that was something that was in there in 15, that came out in 16. That was when we had so much cleanup to do on the year-end statements. We had a whole bunch of journal entries and all that. That was much better in 16, so we only had a couple of entries that is in another report, but that was in much better shape, so we took that out. Also in 2015, the signature authority was there, the segregation of duties was there, and we talked about that. At the top of 137, pledges of collateral during 15, that was a problem. That was corrected in 16, so that came out this year. And then the late filing of financial statements, again, was repeated this year, but hopefully won't be in the future. So, you know, I mean, I guess in short, I want to just say that, you know, again, we're talking about 16. There've been some good bit of improvements made already in 16 over 15, and even more we have already shown that have been made in 17. But, you know, you can't do it by a wing and a prayer. You gotta keep devoting the resources to it. I mean, you spent a lot of money on getting 7% in here. And I know that's a, you know, at one time blitz to get it all caught up. But ongoing, you know, you're gonna have an accounting staff that you're gonna need to make sure you continue to fund and you continue to support. Because Clint's done a great job in the short period of time, you know, that he's been here and what we've seen, but he can't do it alone, you know. You don't want him to do it alone. That creates risk and problems for the system as a whole, and you just need to make sure that he's got the adequate resources he needs to keep doing his job and support Randy, so you can get your stuff timely, you can get accurate reports, and you can have that segregation of duties that you really want. So, let's then preach it. There's another letter in there that goes over sort of the scope of the audit. I'm not going to go through that. That's similar to what we've seen before. So, but y'all have any questions or anything else? Let us know.
I would like to thank you all too for everything you did. I know you had to do a lot of extra work. You had to kind of jump through a few hoops. We appreciate you too met your deadlines that we had to do. We gave Clint just a few minutes to pat himself on the back when we got these things done, and then he's already started on this year that will end in about another 10 days. He's already started doing stuff on that. So, yes, we are well on the way to getting rid of all those little remarks about timeliness. But we thank you all very, very much for working with us and getting everything done. Appreciate it. Has anybody got any questions or anything?
I think we all have the appreciation for all of folks.
Yeah.
All right.
We appreciate it very, very much.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we normally vote, and I see no reason to change that. Have a motion to accept the audit as presented.
I make the motion to accept the 2016 audit.
A motion and a second to accept the audit. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Motion carries, audit is accepted. All right, and again, just to all of you, thank you very, very much. And to Paul Glick, he had to do a great deal of forensic, I call it forensic accounting, to go back into 2014 and begin correcting some things that had not been done or had not been done properly, and straighten out a number of things. And comments from both Clint and from Robinson Grimes is the work that he did greatly facilitated the ability to move forward rapidly and get this done. So just let that be in the record. All right, next is the budget, and I will open the public hearing on the budget. As all of you should well be aware, we have been discussing this budget for several months now. It has been through a lot of massaging. It's had additions, it's had deletions, and this is the second and final hearing of this budget. So citizens, we certainly, if there are things that you wish to ask or discuss, be happy to have you do so. You will have 5 minutes, I believe applies in this case too, does it not, John? You'll have 5 minutes to say whatever you want to say, and we certainly will look forward to hearing from those comments. But before we open it to the public comment, County Manager Dowling, is there anything that you want to say about this, since we have changed a number of things over the last several meetings. I don't know whether you wanted to kind of make any kind of final remarks before we open.
Sounds like a death sentence, a final remark. It might be. Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, the budget has been prepared with a lot of input from departments and elected officials. It is a proposed budget. It is as proposed with 3 pages of changes or additions or clarifications. So the additions and deletions report that I sent, and that's on the website also, has not changed since the last time I sent it. So basically, it is what it is. By law, the budget has to be approved by June 30, the end of our fiscal year. And I think it's in proper form to have the last public hearing tonight, and the board can consider adopting it later this evening.
One question on the, I know it is on the website, but have you had the opportunity to discuss where we've made additions or deletions with the various department heads?
Yes, they received also an email from me,
Okay.
I think at least twice, showing this document, saying, hey, here it is, if you don't agree with it, well, this public hearing's coming. And then here we are. I think there's several that wanted to speak tonight.
Okay, fair enough. And I will then, any commissioners wish to make any preliminary comments before we open it to public comment? All right, and we will then, if anyone who wishes to speak, please feel free to do so. I would ask that you come forward, pull the microphone up to you, identify yourself, your name and your address. And we'll be happy to hear from you. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Where I go home. Let me go first. I have 2 departments, and I think I addressed the one the other day, and I think we came to terms on it. I'm not totally sure. On Department 10, I was asked to cut 3%, and in the paper I got, it was like 19,000 and some change. And I think I turned in a paper to y'all and cut 27,000 and change. So I cut like 8,000 and change more than y'all asked, which you don't have to thank me now. Department 11 was the jail budget, and I was asked to cut 3%. And I'll just ask to take that 8,000 that I cut in Department 10 and take it over to Department 11, because I don't have 3% in Department 11 to cut. If y'all,
Tell us Department 11.
Department 11 is the jail.
Okay. All right.
That's the jail. The only 2 things that are different than last year was the washing machine, which was $12,000 and some change, and the building repairs, which was the sewage, the flushing, which is building maintenance, and the building repair. I'll be glad to cut either one of them, but when they break, they're going to be fixed. And both of them was about $12,000, $13,000, give or take a penny on either one of them. And that's about what y'all wanted me to cut, unless I take the 8,000 that I cut out of the 10 over and put it over into there, and then it's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, which is about $5,000 difference, according to my fingers. But when the washing machine tears up, I'm gonna have to fix it, or we're gonna have to buy one. And when the sewage line tears up, Jamie's gonna have to come fix it and replace them at the same cost that we're budgeting for now or not. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's no fluff. If there's no fluff, there's no fluff. I mean, that's where it's at. I cut where I can to the bone. I give you blood when I can, but at this point I got hepatitis C and you don't want the blood I got. It's up to y'all to do what, I mean, if y'all want to cut either one of those, y'all do the budget once it's prepared, and I spend it the way I spend it. I know the system. That's my 5 minutes.
Thank you. And certainly, any commissioners can chime in. This is my opinion, not necessarily, we haven't talked about it.
Sure. I know.
I certainly understand what you're doing. It's, you, with the jail, there are expenses there that you don't know.
I don't control.
And particularly medical and stuff. But
Yeah.
I'm certainly okay with moving the surplus over to the other one. I think, you know, it makes sense to look at those two together, at least for this year.
Sure.
As far as the other, Mike, you know, I think we've asked every department to cut the 3% except for salaries and whatnot. We understand that. I think we almost have to stand by that, but I would say that, you know, with personnel, you have vacancies from time to time. It may last a week, may last a month.
Sure.
You could begin to make up some of that money. So I would say let's take a look at it that way and see if we don't do it. And then if you know, as we get through the year, it doesn't look like we're going to get all of that, we can certainly look at it.
As the year goes on, there's gonna be more money in
We'll know
the,
what situation.
in the jail account. It's gonna be rebuilding out of
Yeah.
the fines and forfeiture. We might can use money out of the jail account that you don't take.
Yeah, I would just assume for this point, not change the requirement for the 3%, but, and I did, since it is 5,000 or some change.
About 5,000 if you take the
It may
8%
well be
over
made
and
up
over
by
there.
under expenditures or some sicknesses or, open positions.
I mean, I may save the money in medical, I may save it in food, I don't know, but
I understand.
there's nothing else that has that much money in it. I mean, sanitation supplies, I mean, we're gonna buy soap, we're gonna buy,
I think we understand where you are, and if the other commissioners agree with what I've said, you're on the record, we know that we may have to look at it later.
May I ask,
Sure.
if possible, just to be sure, because of not knowing what may arise this year again, would there be a problem in delaying one of the new hires for a sufficient period of time to cover this? I don't know your.
we're not hiring anybody in the jail.
Well, I know
That's the
not the jail,
department.
but I was thinking before new ones for the sheriff's department, because you're going to be using some of the sheriff's department's funds, you know, cuts to go cover the jail.
Well, we'll delay in buying the washing machine until it tears up.
That delay, that doesn't cause a delay at the end of the year. I mean, all the money's there, but what I was asking is, since there are 4 deputy spots that have been approved, is if perhaps one could be delayed a sufficient period of time to cover that 5,000, then you know it's done and there's no if coming up. That's just a suggestion because, you know, different times of the day, I know you're
I see what you're
folks are
saying,
busier.
but then then y'all got to come in and move that line item salary from the 10 to Department 11. It's two different.
Right, but you're using some cuts from Department 10 to go for the required 3% for Department 11. So
We got to move that money
difference.
over soon, but, I mean, I'm,
That doesn't work.
I'll make it work.
what,
Basically, when you add the jail and sheriff's office together,
Yeah.
it's $33,000. We'll cut the sheriff's office by the whole amount, and cut nothing from the jail.
Right, I was just
And
thinking,
the numbers still stay intact.
right. I was just thinking of a way to be sure that that is done in fairness to the other departments. You know, that was just the only thing I
I'm just saying, if I come back in December and say, look, I'm gonna be over budget $5,000 because it didn't work out, I don't want y'all to sum up and say, oh my God, the sheriff over budget $5,000.
Sheriff's been pretty good on his budget for a number of years.
I haven't, you know, I'm just,
You know, early in the year it's scary because you buy your cars up front,
I buy it up
which we
front, but-
understand, but by the end of the year, you're right around it, so.
it's like I come sliding in the home base and it's real close and they say safe. You know? But
Okay,
I'm just letting y'all know, that's quick.
thank you. Do the rest of y'all agree with that? I mean, does that sound like a reasonable goal?
It's fine with me.
All in favor?
So how do I, so what is that?
Make that work.
Go forth.
Make it work.
Make it work.
I can make it work.
Make it work.
I can make it work.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right. Next person.
I didn't hear you.
I really wasn't gonna come up here, but, nobody else had come up here. I just wanna, and, most, I'm sorry, Wayne Harbert, 785 West Coast Trail, but, this is a fairly important meeting. I usually don't come to these meetings, this is not the most entertaining thing to do, but, no offense to anybody. but I'm a little disappointed it didn't have more folks interested in this meeting, because most of these meetings are not interesting, but all these budgets are interesting. And just speaking, and as some of you know, I've fooled around politics for a while, but just wanted to speak to, on behalf of some other folks that ought to be here, that homeowners, property owners, so forth. And everybody knows the government's got to be faithful. Everybody knows that. It's not a problem. But just asking folks to be conscious. A lot of folks don't just, most folks that come here, especially, have a special interest. They have an axe to grind, ox to door, wheel degrees, this kind of thing. But most of your homeowners don't. And but you really find out what these folks thinking when you go door to door, you go to their place of business rather than here, and you listen to them and something like that. And a lot of these folks, I just ask you to think about it. And I appreciate. I was watching YouTube, and I appreciate them doing this thing. And I appreciate Raymond's candor on YouTube. I wouldn't have known that there was $4 million or something like that. Check out a reserve, except I watched it on YouTube, me and about 5 others, I guess, across the county. But just asking that in your deliberations, that you take in consideration, that there's a lot of folks live in this county, and I know, because I've talked to a lot of them, are not as fortunate, in their financial dealings as some are, and just to ask you to think about that. And taxes and homeowner taxes does mean it means a lot to folks. As you can tell from Columbus, this recent tax referendum they had down there on the freeze, 2/3 of the people down there voted against taxes, increasing taxes. So, and that's probably the same number of folks who do that in Harris County. But you have to increase taxes sometimes. Just how much and why, that's an important thing. Is how much and why. And when you have a big jump in taxes, people don't ask questions. And of course, y'all haven't said the millage rates yet, but millage is not the only way that you generate taxes. You have reappraisals, every year. I know I got mine in. It's okay. You expect to do that. You expect to pay taxes. But all I'm asking is that you spend money on stuff that you need, not stuff that you necessarily want, stuff that you have to have. And I think that's the way government should be. Frills and stuff like that. And I think back over the years, just a couple of things. I remember Alan Memphis so many years ago was on the council down there, and they built the trade center downtown. They remodeled that, and I don't know if that thing is still making any money. I don't know if they break it even now. And Alan said it was quite old to start with. But and the natatorium down here, that's one of those things that's it was a special interest thing. They were just a handful of folks that really wanted that thing built, but they got it built. But 3% of the people use it, 100% of the people pay for it. And those are the kind of things we need to keep in mind. When you're going forward in government and bringing things on board, you need to think that we really need to have it. And that's about all I got to say. It's just I'm disappointed that more folks like you in an important meeting like this, and you probably won't see me back at these meetings for a while. Because it's the one that audits and budgets interest me. You know, I was in business for a while, and, you know, it was, you gotta have money to go forward, but you need to be careful with it. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Barber,
you.
appreciate it, sir. Next.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just want to kind of go along the same lines as the sheriff. I was asked to cut 3% from both of my budgets, clerk of Superior Court and Superior Court, which I did. And poor Randy had to hear it from me, but I just want to, you know, say the same thing to y'all that I said to him. I cut 3% like y'all asked, but it was hard in the Superior Court budget because I have no control over what the Superior Court judges or the juvenile court judge orders. So when he orders to pay guardian ad litems and he orders to pay court reporters and interpreters, we have to pay them. But I cut 3% like you asked. And that was the only line that I could cut it in because after looking at the current budget that we're in now, it made sense. So we're hoping, we're praying it works.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. The other line item I cut drastically at the beginning of this was the jurors. I'm praying on that line item too. Since this budget season has started, I have a high-profile case that has been scheduled for trial in August, and I also have a cold case from the 80s that has been returned on habeas. Judge Bill Smith will hear that case, and he's already been in my office getting the file, and we'll probably hear it within this budget season. I don't want to come back in January and say, I need money for jurors, but I might have to. But hopefully what I have proposed will work very much. And thank y'all for.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And yeah, we hope it works too. There are things we don't control. We have to address those when they come. Thank you very much. Next.
You don't want Wayne to feel bad, so. Lynn Sanders, I live at 233 Dogwood Lane, Fortson, and I just want to say a couple real quick things. And one of them is that I noticed a lot of the things that went into our budget were budgeted out of Harris County. That was one of the things that bothered me a little bit. Big line item things that we sent a lot of our money outside of Harris County, and that bothered me just to hear. And I kind of agree with Wayne in that we do have to accept, I think eventually, that we're going to pay a little bit more in taxes, but we would like to have that limited a little bit, and know that our commissioners are being very careful with how our money is being spent, and like to know that you're not likely sending our money outside of Harris County. And that was one of the things that I just wanted to mention, because I noticed that I thought it was kind of hopping out a little bit, because we come up here and we watch what goes on, and I think you do a really good job. But I would like to see our money stay in the county as much as possible. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Appreciate it. Next. Anyone else? Ladies.
Chair, Commissioner, I echo the sentiments of both the sheriff and the clerk of Superior Court on the difficulty it is to trim your PC areas that are already fairly tight in your budget. But work with Mr. Dowling, and I believe we managed to cut 3% as was requested, and we'll certainly make do with what we have and do what we can with the budget as it is. I guess I want to ask for a little bit of clarification procedural-wise possibly, because I do have questions in proposal regarding job classifications and proposed salary increases that I'm not quite sure it would be appropriate for public comment, although I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but I thought it might be more appropriate for an executive session. I'm a little confused as to what the process would be based on my communication, I think, with the county manager on how to bring that about. So I guess I'm asking for a little guidance on how to approach that. Would it be best to submit a proposal to have the commissioners review it? Or what would be best to be able to do that? I don't want to speak on it improperly and violate any restrictions on being able to address that.
I think probably a written proposal would probably be better.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I've gotten, again, this is my first budget year, and
I understand.
going through the process here, but I will say I've probably gotten different suggestions on how to go about presenting it. And I don't know if that's a matter of there being multiple new people in positions, including myself, of how to navigate that. I'm not trying to point fingers or anything, but I just want to know how to proceed properly for the commission.
I think that's, a written proposal probably would be better. This has been an unusual year for us too, budget-wise. We're facing some things that we haven't had to face in quite a while, and a whole lot of issues to deal with.
Sure, I appreciate that. I'm facing a lot of issues I haven't had to face.
Yes, sir, I know. So yeah, if you would do that, just get that to County Manager Dow, and we will review and respond.
Fair enough, I appreciate that, and again, I don't envy the decisions that you have to make as a board. Someone who does make decisions affecting a lot of people's lives. I appreciate the time, and I'll get that to the county manager, and we'll go forward there and I'll look for your direction from that point forward.
Thank you, appreciate that. All right.
Joe Weldon from Kansas St. Lawrence County Coroner. Having looked at the report that Randy sent, the benefits package that I had proposed was still not put back in. And I'm assuming that's still the case?
Yes, sir.
Several of you have served on the commission for a while, so you will recall that this request has been made very gently from time to time over the past 4 years. The one thing I'd like to remind you of is that the 6 of us are all statutory elected officials. I am countywide elected, and I serve Harris County 24 hours a day for the term of my election, 3.5 more years. Some have made the argument that we are either part-time commissioners or part-time coroner, but I would argue that I am the full-time coroner with a part-time salary. I'm sure that y'all feel the same way as commissioners. You don't get to go home and the phone not ring. Either way, I will be the elected coroner for the remainder of my term, 3.5 years. To make this request very clear, all that I'm asking is the same benefit package that the 5 of you have for the same costs that you pay be made available to me at the same rate. I do understand that if you were to cut your benefit package because we're equally elected, my benefit package would cut. So I'm just asking for equality there. I would like to ask once more that you make the equal and fair decision to put the employee's benefit package back into my requested budget. And furthermore, I'm asking that you make this decision to do so here in the public meeting by whatever decision, discussion, or vote that you'd like to take. Is that possible?
I don't know whether we would single out a separate department like that or not.
Well, out during the public hearing, certainly you could,
You do it in
consider
deliberation.
in deliberation of your budget.
Let me make a comment, Garner. Yes, this has come up before. We've had some discussion about it. We've not made a decision, not taken a vote on it. Other than it just really wasn't room in the budget, in our opinions, to do that. But in the past, when it has been brought up, we have sort of said, okay, when an official is elected, they know what the pay is, they know what any benefits are. And while that person is sitting in the current term, I guess we feel a little questionable to do so within that term. I think we have on occasion, and I don't really remember when, Nancy, I don't know if you remember too, we have made a decision, but it's been with the next election. That with the next election it would take place. I realize you just ran and you're just half a year into a 4-year term. But, I think certainly we hear you. I understand what you're asking for, and I think then it's we could discuss that if we want to end the actual after the public hearing when we're actually talking about the approval. But that gives you a little bit of background as to what we have talked about in the past, what past commissions, how they have dealt.
Okay, in perspective to exactly what you're saying, had y'all dealt with this over the past 4 years, the next election, it would have already been corrected.
You're right.
So,
but it wasn't requested during that term.
Formally, I really tried to stay as easy and not have to pull all this out, public hearings and all that kind of stuff. I would mention quietly, and I would just hear, well, you knew it wasn't part of the pay package. But I am looking for what is being fair for the request.
I understand.
And I'm hoping that y'all do see that this would be a fair and equal decision. And it's just, 5 people's opinion versus 1 possibly. But my opinion is pretty strong about what should be. And if it depends on how it goes, I would kind of be held to asking for a judge's opinion above whatever decision's made. That's, just to get a third party's opinion.
Okay.
So if you would address it
Thank you, sir.
at the end of the meeting, I'd appreciate it.
And we appreciate the job you do for us, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
All right, anyone else wish to make any comments? Anyone at all? All right, I guess that closes the public hearing. And then the next item would be for this commission to review anything that might come, we wish to review, discuss anything that maybe has been brought up, and then move forward as far as the adoption of the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget, which would include the general fund, which is where most of our discussions have been, and also then the special revenue funds, capital project funds, debt service, the enterprise funds, the airport, solid waste, waterworks, and then any other type things that might be associated with that. So with that, I will, Randy, I think you made your comments already, so I think I will then say, let's discuss the budget. We have been working, I know Randy and the department heads have been working on it since February, getting it adopted and their discussions. We have had 5 budget work sessions where we normally have 3. So we have certainly been looking at it and having discussions about it. It's gone through many different iterations. What Randy presented here in the 3 pages are the changes that have been made. So I think it is there then for us to review the budget and adopt the budget. This budget as presented to us shows where there are shortfalls, and there are different potential ways of making those up by drawing funds from some of the funds that we do have, millage rate increase, anything else that we can come up with will produce some more income coming in. So the budget and the millage rate, while they are related, they are separate. So I will then open this for discussion with what has been presented to us and as adjusted through all of our meetings and to what Mr. Dowling and Clint also have shown as the proposal. So I guess, does anyone have any department that they would like to revisit or make any additional changes to? And I guess that could include the coroner's request at this point in time too, for benefits.
I would like to discuss the coroner's request.
All right.
I feel that this is something that apparently should have been addressed previously, after another 3.5 years.
I support that also. I think that health insurance for someone who does such a critical job as he does in the county is something that we, I hate to say we owe him, but I think citizens owe him. And when he talked in our last meeting about mental health issues, I would hate to be in his shoes doing that particular job, although I know he ran knowing what that job was and understood what the job was, but I support putting the benefits in at this time.
All right. Anyone else like to chime in on that issue? Mr. Dowling, do you remember roughly what the dollars on that is annually?
I know exactly. The health benefit portion is $7,562, and the retirement portion is $2,130, for a total of $9,692.
Okay. That's not a department where the vacancy will, for a short period of time, will make that up. There's really no other place you can do it. I think, I'm sorry it didn't come up while we were still in his last term, because I too feel like I could support that. I think he is on call all the time, certainly gets interrupted at times when he would rather not be interrupted. So I can support that. On the other hand, Dowling will have to come up with another $10,000 somewhere.
We can find
I'm not asking you to say where you would get it if we approved it.
I'll make it work.
there are some items in the budget that can run short sometimes. We just don't know. There are also items that can run over. We don't control this absolutely, but by and large, our department heads do a wonderful job of staying pretty much dead on their budgets. They work hard at doing it. I think that's my comments. All right. Well, I don't know whether we take an individual vote or just consensus to go ahead and add it back in, and then in the final vote, one vote for the final budget.
You do it either way.
Well, we haven't voted on any other items individually, so.
Yeah. Let's then put it in for right now, and we'll see how it goes in the end. Okay? Anything else? Any other? I think since we have massaged for a good while this budget, I think we've gone back and forth on a couple of them too. I think as far as this cuts and additions and whatnot, we're pretty much where we're going to be. So just adding that back in, then that leaves us with a budget. That budget does show a shortfall, expenses over revenues. There are ways of doing that. Mr. Dowling has presented alternatives. As we go through, there's several of these funds that we can borrow some money from. Millage rate increase is a possibility. We haven't had an increase in years in our millage rate. And I know that's no excuse, but we worked hard the last 2 or 3 years. We worked pretty hard to try and keep the millage rate where it was. And I think part of our working hard to do that is now coming back to bite us a little bit, and we've gotten behind in some of these funds. But we can make it work. We just don't want to take too much out of those funds. This is me speaking personally. We don't want to take too much of those funds out to put us in an even shaking position next year. We still want to have something that we can fall back on. So, but there are ways of doing that, and our vote as far as the millage rate will come later. Then August, I think we have to do that. But we do have to have a budget by June 30th. So where we make up the shortfall is still up for discussion, I guess is what I'm really saying.
In the last meeting, I think Commissioner Langston said that the voters elected us to look after their tax dollars, and I certainly do agree with that. And they also look to us to be fiscally responsible and keep the county fiscally sound. And we are certainly not in a financial crisis at this point. We have a healthy reserve, as you heard tonight, and I think we will at the end of 2017. Our debt's not exorbitant, but if we don't act now, then in a couple more years, we will be in a financial crisis. And I think, as I look at the proposal as far as the millage rate increase, I know in all of my years of public service, I've never developed a budget or recommended a budget where there was a millage rate increase. So it's a bitter pill for me to sit here and look at this, but I also believe that we were elected to maintain sound financial management. And we have, that was looking forward as well as looking at today. And so, I support the ways that have been submitted as far as our making up this budget. I think it's a sound budget. I think it's a good budget. I think we're going to have to be very careful to stick to it so that when we get here next year, we will not be in worse shape than we are today.
Well said.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think, one of the comments Mr. Harbert made earlier, spend what you need, not what you want. And I think there are times when we have spent money, I think, on some things that we wanted a whole lot and we thought were good for the county. But I think over the next 2 or 3 years, that is a good mantra to have, that we need to look much more carefully and consider much more carefully before we do anything new.
Well, I think when you realize $3 million have been cut out of the Quest, that leads you to know that we're getting there. We're trying to get there.
Yeah.
Spend on what we need and not what we
Okay. All right. Any other commissioners wish to make any comments? Ms. Langston?
I just want to say that I have agonized many hours over this budget. I have talked to a lot of my constituents about it. They've contacted me, I've contacted them. I still have some very strong reservations about this budget. I think that, and I have presented this to this board on more than one occasion, I think that there are some things in this budget that could be postponed. I have said that on many occasions. I am not happy with some of the things that are in this budget. I am happy with the public safety. I am semi-happy with the 2% COLA for our employees. I really would like for it to be at least 3. So I have had a really difficult time in coming to my decision on how to vote on this budget. And when I was elected, I knew that this was not going to be a party. I knew it was not going to be easy. But I did promise my constituents that I would vote my conscience and based on their input. And that's what I plan to do tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Langston. I think Ms. Langston's comments really echo what all of us have felt. And I have made the comment, and I'll just make it here so that it publicly is, not having had a millage rate increase for many, many, many years is sort of an albatross around your neck, because it's very tough to do or to even consider when you never have done that before. But it is unfortunately something that we need to consider as a way of partially funding our shortfall this year. We would certainly love to do more for our employees. Last year, we did a $500,000 upgrade based on a salary survey that was done. This year, we are to keep those salary levels current. We would have had to have at least a 1.5% increase. That's the cost of living adjusted for this area, 1.5% increase. So going over that, but we also, as part of it, decided that we would pick up any of the increases for the employee health insurance. And this is for all of the employees, whether it be family plan, couple plan, or just an individual. And that was, what was that, $300,000 range?
The COLA?
No,
it was about $353,000.
I was thinking it's over $300,000, a little over $300,000. So that, is trying to help the employees also. So I think that just to make sure that's out there. It has not been fun. Obviously, having 2 more work sessions than we normally have, because we were discussing and we were listening to the citizens, and we made some changes because of input from the public. But I think it's, regrettably, I think it's something we have to support, and then it is our challenge to try and be able to not only work within this one, and I appreciate all the department heads working with us on this, but it's also for us to try and look forward and prepare ourselves for the future. And one of those things that we've had discussions with the Chamber of Commerce, Development Authority has talked about it. Other than our business parks and property taxes, we've got retail, but we've only got a small amount of retail. We need to develop some streams of revenue that will help us in the future, so that as we grow, those streams will grow also and help us to meet the budget demands. So, but I appreciate everyone's comments here tonight. Yes, if there are no other comments.
I should make a comment because everybody else did.
All right.
I mean, our basic problem is that over the last 10 years, we've had a 9% decrease in our taxes. I believe it's right at $200,000 last year. We've had a 5,000 addition in population who all require services. We've also have a basic cost of doing business. It's been running about 2% theoretically, but I've never quite figured out. It always costs me more than whatever they say the CPI is. It never equals to what I end up having to spend. And we've lost revenue from the state having taken money, and we've had and they require more work being done, and so does the federal government. And that's basically our problem. It isn't that we're spending a lot of money, or the number of employees that we have for the job, or the scope of the job is, at the bare minimum. The other expenses, we've cut out everything we possibly can. I know the other commissioners spent the same amount of time that I have on the budget, and I've spent, 2 whole weekends plus at least 1 day every week for the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It's just a matter that, we're getting less money and our expenses are going up. It's hard that you could only make that, squeeze that apple so many times till there's no blood in the turnip.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments? All right, then I would entertain a motion.
We have a resolution.
Oh, thank you, sir. You want to explain the resolution to us?
It's just a resolution that adopts what the budget would be. Maybe Randy would be better to explain it, but the general fund budget, if you increase it by $9,629 for the coroner, would be up to $24,087,618, and then that would kick the total annual budget up to $45,068,340, according to the way I calculated it. I am not an accountant.
Yeah, and you use 629 at 692, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that correction in there, that's
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But that, if you add 692, it'll kick both those numbers up.
All right. We do have a resolution, John. You think I ought to read this resolution?
You don't have to, no, sir. You basically said all of this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, and it's on the website too, so and we need to make that correction, assuming it passes.
Yes.
We would need to make that correction.
I can.
Make the correction anyway, just on the website.
Once the board approves the budget, we'll spend about 3 or 4 days cleaning it up, getting it ready, and we'll put the final version on the budget for it to stay forever.
And I know that let me just ask this, there are a bunch of citizens out here tonight who don't come on a regular basis to these meetings. This is the first time, at least since I've been a commissioner, that our proposed budget has ever been put on the website and made available, other than a few copies at the back of the room or going to the commission office. Do y'all find that helpful? Is it something you would like to see us continue doing.
Absolutely.
I think it's good because it allows you to see some of the details that we work on and be able to provide your comments, which are helpful to us. They really are. So, thank you. And I would ask that you continue to do that as we move forward. Okay, then we have a resolution which has been in our packets. Randy, is there anything you want to say about that at all, the resolution? Okay. Okay. Then I would entertain a motion as far as the acceptance of this resolution.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution with the adjustments.
All right,
With the 9692.
with the 9692.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Wish we could have pulled a rabbit out of a hat somewhere, folks, but we just couldn't do it this year. All right, all in favor of the motion then, please signify by raising your hands. Those opposed?
I would, if I could.
Sure, please do.
Because I voted against the budget in its current form, does not mean that I oppose everything in the budget. There are a great many things that I do, that I approve of. I do think that we could have been have compiled a more austere budget. I think that there are some things in this budget that are wants rather than needs. And I agree with Mr. Harmer's comment on that. So just because I voted no does not mean that I am against everything in the budget. I just want to make that clear.
Thank you. I think that probably goes for most of us too. There are things in here that, we've had a lot of discussions, and there are things in here that each one of us individually have our own ideas. And some of us would take one or another thing out of here, but they weren't things that came up unanimously or consensus enough during the discussions to do so. It was not an easy task for us to do this. Please believe us when we say that. It's not something, I'm happy that we have been in, as far as county operations, that we've been in the low counties in the state, low 10 of the state. And I really have been able to say that with pride. I hope we can still do that. It's certainly going to be one of my goals if we're happen to move over, to try and move back so that we are to do that, to be in the low 10 out of 159 counties in the state. It's just kind of neat to be able to say. So. All right, well, thank you for that. And we will move on into and do thank all of y'all who made comments. The next item on the agenda is the wellness grant application. This is, we've been receiving wellness grants for the past several years. It is requested that approval be given to apply for the same again this year. The funds, which average around $20 per covered employee, must be used for health, wellness, related promotions and activities. We don't have to pay any match for it. It's totally funded by Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. And I would entertain a motion to continue this.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we've got the motion and we have a second. Any discussion?
I have a discussion. We're too often receiving payments at the last minute. I don't know why. That we received an audit at the last minute, which I can basically understand. But I spent most of today reading the budget for the audit so I could make a decision tonight. We received this at the last minute. In the future, I would expect that we will not receive anything at the last minute like this. That if we do, I will ask it to be taken.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hands. Motion carries. All right, County Manager, Mr. Dowling, project updates.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, to quickly go through the fiscal year protocol work, and the fiscal year is coming to an end really soon. I'm going to hit the high points. Number 5, the library construction project. That project is going on very, very nicely. We did have a status meeting yesterday. That project is going on time, on budget. It's going quite well. There is a sign being put up, there's a sign being put on the fence announcing that it is at the library and it'll be opening early 2018. Basically, the building will be finished about December, and the library is hoping to, they'll be closing for about 6 weeks in December and January, hoping to open up in February, early February. So that's a time frame on budget. And again, as I meet people, a lot of citizens believe that the library is being constructed with property taxes, which couldn't be further from the truth. The library is being constructed with SPLOST money as well as state money and donations. There's not any property tax money in this construction project. A lot of people don't know that, so I'd like to get that information out. Number 6, the update of the website has been completed. We try to keep that with fresh content. So I hope everybody will go look at the website and see all the county news and information.
It's much improved.
Good content, and just all the minutes are on there. The YouTube videos are on there. I've never seen one, because I guess I'm here, I don't need to see it. So just a lot of good information, and we try to keep it current as much as we can.
Let me go back just a minute to your library thing, just give everybody an update of the donations, where we have a target down there of 1.226 million. We already have pledges of $670,000. So, go ahead.
And then number 11, the 2016